Hello. Oh, I have like an alfalfa.
Hi. Oh,
Hello.
I'm like, where's the camera?
No clue.
Oh, all right.
Just gonna
Just
hang
go
out.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So it's Tuesday again. Whew.
I thought I brushed my hair, but we still have alfalfas going on. But that's okay.
Yeah, it's all good, right?
Sunny afternoon, is it?
Yeah, it's
Would help if we get to go outside.
sunny outside.
It's always the same in here.
Sunny and 25.
Happy sunny afternoon.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's all right. We'll get to see it eventually.
It'll be nice and dark when I leave. So So
Yeah,
you cut some fabric this weekend?
I did.
Me too.
Cut some fabric. You embroidered.
I embroidered a bit.
Not.
Yeah. I didn't get quite as far as I wanted to get this weekend, but I did get a little bit done. So hopefully I'll get a little farther tonight.
Yeah.
Kate will have to be disappointed. I'm going to ignore her. But that's okay.
Louisa said she wishes that her sewing room was warm. No?
No.
Is it cold upstairs?
It is.
Yeah.
I usually turn on a heater and close the door, and then it warms up fairly quickly, but it's not warm to start off with. You would probably love my room.
Yeah, my sewing room was in the basement, so it's like 62 all year round, which is, I like it to be 65, so I usually turn the heat on to 65, but
Nope.
That's it.
Can't do 65.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
So I like if I'm not moving, 65 can be cold, but I tend to be moving around
Right.
a lot, so I also like to snuggle under the blanket with the kitty. And if it's too hot, it gets too hot. No one likes to be hot. I don't like to be hot.
Yeah. I mean, you can always bundle up where there's only so much you can take off, I
That's
suppose,
true.
without offending anody that's around you. But
I suppose if you're at home, right, it doesn't matter.
I mean, there's still people to offend at my house, so they haven't all moved out yet. But
Everybody's got this new. Now everybody's gonna go in there. Just turn up the heat in your sewing room and take off all your clothes and
yeah,
be careful you don't
Right.
poke yourself with any sharp objects.
we went to dinner on Sunday for my mother-in-law's birthday, and I had washed all my stuff, so it's in the laundry room. And I got out of the shower and I had my jeans on, my socks, my boots,
Mm-hmm.
and a bra. And I'm like, I can hear my son. He's out in the family room. So I had my iPad and I'm just watching through the house with my iPad kind of covering the front of me. My husband's like, your iPad's not big enough. So he was fine. He didn't see anything that scarred him for life or anything. So
That's
it was fine. But I don't think he even paid any attention to me. But it was a little entertaining.
Yeah,
But,
sometimes you never know.
it was funny. I think Jeff got a kick out of it. He's like, walking through the house like that, huh? Yep. Well, my shirt's over there. So, yep.
Yeah, I guess that's the only advantage these days of being empty nesters.
Yeah.
There are no other. If I offend the cat, he's not telling me.
Not telling you,
Mm-mm.
except to butt head you out of a chair.
Right? So funny. This is the cat that was David's dad, so she was an outdoor cat, and so she's been real skittish, and she just kind of turned a corner, and I was telling Lisa and Hayden earlier this morning that it was hysterical. Dave was playing a video game and he was dying and he was getting frustrated, so I decided I was gonna sit on his lap and be obnoxious so that he couldn't play his video game. I was just being a brat, and the cat wanted to sit on his lap, and since I was sitting on the chair with him, there was no
room for the cat.
So she kept circling and meowing and meowing, and finally she jumped up on the arm of the chair and she starts to butt me with her head, like, get out of the chair, Mom. This is where I'm supposed to be. You are in the wrong place. So
My spot.
quite hysterical. So she has definitely, cats like routine, and that is her routine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I don't know that that's just a cat thing. I think that's a pet
animal thing. Yeah.
That's a pet thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do like to be.
Our dogs like to sit like on the top of the couch.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a sectional,
Mm-hmm.
and if they sit up there, they can look and watch cars drive by or cars drive in
Yeah.
if there's somebody coming home, and so they're aware of what's going on. And Jeff has Jeff's chair.
Yeah.
And so his is separate from the couch.
Right.
And they sit on the top of that, and I'll come down from my sewing room and the tails will go and he gets boom, boom, boom in the head. And I'm like, how's it going, honey? He's getting smacked in the head. And I'm just like,
good times.
Good times.
These animals, we love them, but they are too funny, aren't they?
I just think it's hilarious. I'm like, getting hit yet? He's like, yeah. Yes. And our youngest has got a pretty good
tail
whip.
Yeah.
It's when it's going, it can hurt if
Yeah.
it's going good enough. So yeah, it's funny. We're we have some good laughs with the dogs.
Yeah, you have to, right?
Yes.
They are, animals are.
I don't know if I
super
told
funny.
you. I did tell you. I don't know that I've told all of you. My oldest, Samantha, out in Arizona, she got a new puppy.
Yeah. You
And
did. She's so
she's
cute.
been sending little videos and
Yeah, I can't. Is it a
and
boy or a girl?
it's a boy.
It's a boy. He's
Yep.
so cute.
He
You
is
get my correct.
he is very, very, very cute. We sent toys.
Right.
She sent, her birthday was this past week, and she sent a list of dog things that she wanted. So we of course obliged and she sent a video of one of the toys that we sent.
You officially have a grand pet.
I have a grand pet, yes. And the dog is just like Flopsy. He's just all over and is absolutely hilarious to watch this video. I mean, I giggle you know, it's one of those things that when you're like having a bad moment, you could turn on and it would just make you laugh no matter what.
Shirley wants to know what kind of dog.
It is a golden retriever.
He is adorable.
He really is.
He
He's
is
got an
very,
absolutely
very
beautiful face. I mean, I think all Goldens in general are pretty good looking dogs.
Yeah.
But then there's some that are just cuter than this is a really good looking dog.
Like an expression or something.
I mean,
Yes.
this is
They're
really,
very
really good looking dogs.
You just
This
gotta
is a
snuggle
really
them.
good looking dog though. He's very, very handsome.
You're not
and-
biased.
Not at all. Mm-mm. No, but yes. So he is absolutely gorgeous, but not jealous at all.
No.
Yeah, my dad had a few litters, so we raised Goldens for a little while, and I bought one of those puppies back in the day,
Yeah.
and that was one of the first gifts that I gave to Jeff. Is I gave him
Mm-hmm.
our first dog, and he says to this day that's the only reason we're still together because he wasn't willing to give the dog back.
Yeah.
Brat, but
Yeah.
long story, long joke, long standing joke, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
But so we've had Goldens, and we've been wanting to get another Golden, but sadly my son's allergic to that long hair dog,
Oh,
so we
yeah.
haven't. That's why we don't have those kinds of dogs in the house right now. So
So Sam can live out her
Sam
long
can live-
hair.
yep. But so yeah.
Aw.
But-
So you can live
Vicariously through her, yes.
Yeah.
So Tony was telling me about some inexpensive flights out to Arizona that his mom took, and I was like, oh, maybe I can go visit the puppy.
Yeah.
I mean my daughter.
Yeah. Totally. The puppy. That's great. Like I said,
Puppy.
you have your
So
first
cute.
official grand pet because even though it's PJ's dog, he lives with you, so it's not quite the same.
And fortunately, I don't know how you.
He's more your dog.
He's kind of turned into our dog
Yeah.
because even with PJ home now,
Mhm.
he stays with us
Yeah.
almost more than he goes down and sleeps with. It was definitely PJ's dog for
Right.
a long time. It was like he would completely ignore us. Yeah,
It's not
but-
like that anymore.
it is not like that anymore. He's become the fourth dog in my bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know.
That's
There's
a lot
only
of dogs.
so much. I know.
That's a lot of dogs
I-
in the bed. It's a lot of dogs.
The dynamic of the cats between the house and the camper, right? So in the house, it's just the two cats, and so Misty, she's my old cat. She's always in my face when I'm
Yeah.
sleeping, and now Felix has started doing that to Dave. But Miss Kitty, she doesn't really come in the bedroom because if Felix hears her, that's his domain, and he gets mad. But in the RV, all three cats were sleeping on the bed with us, and it's a much smaller bed.
Right.
So I was like, you couldn't move because there was like, just like you, right? There's
Yeah.
there's something
Yeah.
everywhere. So And it's amazing what you will do to not wake up
To
the
not
animal.
mess up an animal's
Right.
sleep cycle or whatever.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is silly.
We do love our pets,
We
don't
do.
we?
Yes. I suppose you probably did the same thing with your children when they
Oh,
were
more
little.
so, but
So yes.
yeah, you would do anything for them too, but it's just funny.
So it's not then it's just what you do with the babes in your bed, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with our husband, we're just like, get out of the
Oh
way.
God, yes. Quit snoring and you smack him with the
your
pillow. Yes,
Or
you
your
would never
hand.
do that with a dog or
Right.
No.
It's a completely different love.
Completely different loves. Absolutely.
Oh.
So that's what happened in our lives.
Yeah,
this
yeah. It was all
weekend.
about the animals.
It's all about the puppies and the kitties and
Yeah.
and
But we did
so-
both do a little bit of
we
stuff
did.
in our
So
sewing room.
I am working on spring
Spring
showers. And I did make some things for my mother-in-law this weekend, but I'm working on spring showers for the shop so that
Mhm.
the sample is here. And I got pretty much row one is completed, and I've started on the rest. But I like I said, I sewed for my mother-in-law this weekend too, so I'm a little farther behind than I thought I would be. So we don't have any dates to share with you yet, but we hopefully sometime this week we'll send out an email with the tips and tricks for spring showers. And we kind of briefly talked about this, but not before live. So I'm totally putting her on the spot here, but probably 2 days.
Yeah.
And the second one we will show borders because we had a lot of people ask about that again. So we will do another border video
Mhm.
in addition to
Yeah.
different things with this. So there is a ton of embellishments. A lot. I mean, the embellishment kit is huge
It
this
is.
time.
It is
So
very
there's
big.
a lots in there. So there's blocks that have lots of different things going on, and there are blocks that are either multi-hoop blocks or super big blocks, depending upon what hoop size that you have. So
Mhm.
there'll be lots to talk about. So we'll have 2 different dates that you can watch if you're interested. And for those of you who are interested, the thread sets. It's all still in a box. We haven't opened the box yet, but the box did get delivered today.
Mhm.
So we will have the thread sets for that available.
Very soon.
Hopefully we can get that boxed and start
Get it
sending
opening.
them out in
Yeah.
tomorrow. Hopefully we can start getting that ready to go out by tomorrow.
Yeah.
So the thread sets are here. They're just not ready to go out yet, but they're in this really big box.
Yes.
Actually, they're in like 4 really
For a
big boxes.
really big box. Yes.
But yeah.
And I feel like we should just say this because we received an email this morning about Kimberbell prices going up.
We
So
did.
on between now and March 1st, it's a big price increase this time. It's about a 10% increase. So if they're
pretty much across the board, like everything there.
those little
So
embellishments, the felt and things like that. So if there's been stuff that's been on your
if it's on your wish list and you've been kind of holding off, buy it this month before the price goes up. Because unfortunately we will be pushing. So it'll be kind of over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be slowly changing the prices as we get to it. It's not going to all happen on one day, unfortunately.
No,
so,
but it is happening. So
that's weird.
Yeah, there we go. But yeah, and it's happening to everybody. You guys know that, but we just wanted to let you know what was happening. I know, right? Everything is taking forever, and we got sewing machines, and
we got an email from brother that the list of holy crap not going to be available, and it's just
isn't until like June. It's just insane.
We got some terrible news this week.
Yeah, it's been crazy. So pretty soon we're going to be sitting in, it feels like we're going to be sitting in an empty store.
Empty store could happen sometime this summer.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
don't, that's my tip. My number one tip is if you think that you want something and a place has it in stock, get it, because Lord knows when they're going to get it again. It is just getting worse and worse.
She's not wrong.
But yeah, that's it. So today, since we've been jammering here, today we wanted to talk about sewing machine settings.
Yes.
And we show a lot of things on a lot of the higher end model machines.
We do.
And we don't always go back to the basics on these really wonderful machines. So Lisa and I we each have a machine sitting close to us. We have the entry-level model in this category and the top-end model in this category, and there are 4 different sewing machines, and they cover a wide variety of names.
A whole bunch. Like this stretch of machines. So like she said, there's 4, and there's 4 in Brother, and there's 4 in Babylock. So there's actually 8 machines that are current, and then there's been
at least one of everything before.
That's been right, exactly. And
Some
it's been like these have been here since I've started working here, and they were here before I started working here. So these have been around, and they just keep changing them a little bit until they throw out a new name.
Yeah.
Or Brother has thrown out new names more than Babylock has thrown out new names, but they both changed the names. But the machines themselves have stayed for the most part the same. There's been very minor differences, and most of it has been what's in the box more than what's going on in the machines themselves. So if you have a machine with an 8.3 inch throat that is on this frame, all of these things are pretty much going to apply to you.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter what the name of it is. It's going to fall in this category.
Right.
So we are going to kind of run through. There is definitely a very large span from the entry level to the top of this 4 machine range. There's going to be definitely some very big differences, which makes sense, right?
Right. But settings menus are settings menus.
That is absolutely true. And
even though we're talking about it on this machine, we will talk about it on other machines next week. So if you have a machine that's different than this, you'll see how it works on yours.
Absolutely. So anything, and we've said this before, anything that you learn from one thing. So if you started here and then you move up to something else, anything, sorry, my hands are getting in front of machines. I'm Italian somewhere down the line. I know. Anything that you learn is always going to transfer into the new machine because they are very consistent. And that is one of the things I love. The user interface is very consistent. So I think it's a phenomenal thing because it makes sense, and it will continue to make sense, which is also fantastic. So
yes. That being said, it's on your machine.
It is on mine. Do we want to start at the top, or do we want to start?
How about if I figure out where the ta-da.
Dun, da, da, da.
So before we get into the settings menus, let's bounce between the 2 machines just for 1 second. So the machine that's currently up here is the Soprano, which, as far as I can tell, has been the Soprano for quite a while. I couldn't find a previous name for it.
I could not either.
But like a 1300 or a 1350 in Brother speak. So this one's going to have a couple of extra buttons that none of the other machines in this lineup have.
And those are going to be the buttons that are running down the right-hand side that are, this one in particular at the top here will only be on the Soprano or 1300 type machine.
Yes. And that is that electronic presser foot lifter button. So if you have the higher end model machines past this point, they all have that same button. It's
a good thing I redid that nail last night because that one broke. I had to fix that one. So that one right there is for an auto pivot, and that one is only available on that number 4 top machine in this series.
Yeah, so that one will not be on any of the other model machines. And then I'm going to switch to this camera over here. So as you're looking at this one, you've got a few extra little pieces and buttons. So your keypad is full.
We've got arrows. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. You've got arrows going all the way across for the different types here. So you've got 3 sets of pluses and minuses. You've got keyboards all the way down here that are going to give you things plus the range of buttons here.
Yeah, and on this one,
got a few less buttons.
That's weird. Let's go back a little. Sorry, guys. Yeah, a few less buttons. I must have bumped it. Okay, so you can
see those wheels.
See, I know, right? The top row is a little different. We have our reverse button, and we do have our scissor button over there. And then we have some empty spaces over here. But this one also does not have a traditional settings menu. So when we talk about going to the settings menu on your machine, this particular model doesn't have that. So it does have some of the features that we're going to talk about, but it doesn't actually have the little folded piece of paper that we have on all of the other models. So we do have, see, I'm hitting buttons too. My Vanna finger is not working here. So this button here is the button that will turn on your auto reverse button and your scissor feature. And what this is telling the machine is that when you're finished stitching, it will do these particular, if we think of those as tasks. So we're telling the machine that when I do this task, I also want it to do this task. And the nice thing about the simplicity of this machine is that when we turn on one of these buttons, what happens is you should see that we've got it actually on the screen here. So you can see everything that you actually have turned on the machine. That will be there. And then the other things that are found in other settings menus on different machines, we have how the machine is going to turn on. So this button right here, when we turn the sewing machine on, is it going to center itself in the center of the needle plate, or is it going to be in left? So one of the weird things between Brother and Babylock is how they automatically set the machines. Babylock tends to automatically be already in the center, and the Brother sewing machines tend to come in the left needle position. Someone once told me that in the European market, they typically sew on the left side of the throat plate because it stabilizes the fabric on 3 different sides. I don't know what's different between the left side and the right side personally, but that's what I was told. And I don't know for sure if that is truth. I do know that typically that is where the engineer has decided that would be like the best looking stitch. And so apparently Brother wants you to start at the best looking stitch on the left hand side.
There you go.
So this button here tells you where that is going to do on the initial startup. And then this button here is your needle up, needle down, how you want that to be set up. So the task. And then this button gets pushed a lot. When that button is pushed, what happens is your width button now becomes your speed dial. So I think, can I zoom out? Whoop, too much. So this button, when this is turned on the screen, it controls this, which then controls where your needle is, as opposed to the slide speed control on your machine. So those are just a couple of the different things that you can do on this machine.
Right.
And everything that you can do on here, you can do on every other sewing machine. So that it's not just exclusive to this.
Yep. So a lot of times we will term this as a much more simple way of programming because everything is right up front and it will show you on screen whatever button that you have pushed. So if you want it to be in center needle position, when you tap that top needle button, the needle up top above that number 1 will move to the center needle, and then it will show you this is what you've chosen. Mm-hmm. But there's no secondary screen that's going to come up. So it's very simplistic, mm-hmm. And everything that you need to see is right there in front of you. It's very simplistic, mm-hmm. And everything is right there.
Yeah.
So
if you want a machine that is really nice but doesn't have super complicated widgets.
Right. I just want to turn it on and sew.
That's right.
This is the machine for you because it literally has a beautiful stitch. It's mm-hmm. got that wonderful feed system. It's got an 8.3-inch throat. And again, you turn it on and you've got all of those wonderful interior features, but very simplistic programming. Mm-hmm. So you don't have the millions of crazy stitches of how do I figure this out? How do I figure that out? It's all right up front. You just push what you want and you start sewing.
Absolutely. It just has all of the basics that you would need, but it does have the fancy needle threader and it yep. does have a thread cutter on it. And it is electronic in the sense that you can electronically adjust your length and your width, which is what these buttons on here are. So that little button there, it kind of looks like a
like a little tornado.
Yeah, that is your width button, and it's pretty much the same on all the machines. And then this little hieroglyphic here stands for your stitch length. And that's basically it. The rest of the buttons on the machine will take you to different menus. But they aren't necessarily settings.
Right.
So the things on this machine that we would consider settings would be on the side over here. Yep. So let's switch over to the Soprano, and we'll have a few more choices.
Few more choices is right.
And so any machine that has like the knee lift capability, so the second series in the machine and above, is going to have a settings menu.
Yep. And so we've talked before, if you've been on the phone with us and said, hey, I can't find something. And we say, well, go to your settings button. This is the one that we've been talking about. It's a little bit hard to see just based on the print that we've got here, but it's a piece of paper with a folded down top right corner.
Like lined paper that you used in school.
Exactly. And when you tap that, you get the different settings that are inside of that menu. And so there's going to be, in this case, 9 pages. On the 900 series or the 700 series, there'd be less pages because there's less things built into those machines. But this guy right here has a tab underneath of it. And so I can page through those by the tab that's right below that. So again, it's very self-explanatory. There's a little guy right below it that tells me what I need to do and what I need to see. I can see arrows here, and there's arrows that are moving in that same direction here. So those would be the arrows that I would use to toggle through something on that page. And then to move up and down, here's my up and down arrows. So I can go to the twin needle, and hey, look, there I have right and left arrows. So moving around this machine is very simple once you understand what arrows move you where. I have had a few customers over time that I can never remember which one to push that goes where. But the twin needle is a perfect example. It's very clearly says which one it is. To get there, I move up and down the list by moving my arrows that are pointing up and down. I can get to that page by using my page arrows here. And then to turn that on or off, these arrows here point right and left. So I can toggle right and left very simply there.
Yep.
So it's not difficult. They've really simplified all of that. We had a needle position on the 500 that Sarah was just talking about. This is the same setting. It's just instead of being right on the front of the machine, it's in the settings menu because we have so many different settings that are available to us here. We have them in a menu instead of a whole list of bunch of different buttons on the front of the machine.
Yep. You have more choices for your personalized sewing.
Exactly. So here, this is that same. Do you want to finish your task with the needle down or with the needle up? And here I can choose by, again, selecting with that right or left arrow. And you can see that the picture changes there when I toggle left and right. So I can tell the machine what I want it to do, my task, as she was saying, how I want it to finish that seam right there. And I can continue through those settings. There again is that width control. Pretty much going to recommend you all leave that off. It'll only screw you up. I think it's really cool. It is a really, really neat feature. If you want your stitch to do this as you're sewing, if you don't want it to do that, don't ever use that.
Yeah, it's really fun for doing decorative satin stitching.
Absolutely. It's
any other
super
reason,
slick. It literally allows you to change the width of your stitch literally while you're sewing. That's what that is. But if that's not what you want, it makes everything else not work.
Yes.
Literally. And we get that phone call of
a lot.
I can't get this to work. Well, do you have this on? They'll go, I didn't turn that on. And then we'll go through the settings and lo and behold, it's on. So it's super easy to accidentally flip on.
Yeah, especially if you're
especially as you're
moving
paging
your-
through.
yeah, it's
Yep.
definitely easy to think. I think what people do is they think this button over here is the next page button because they see
Yep.
the arrow, which is totally logical.
Yep. So as you're paging through, instead of hitting here, people will do this and they turn that on,
Not realizing.
not realizing. Yep. And so super simple error to make, unfortunately. And then here is that same initial position, which we talked about over there. Do you want it to be center or left needle position when you turn the machine on? And you can page down to that, and then you can say which one you want it to be. Very, very simple. And so we have a lot of different settings that are in here. 9 pages worth to be exact.
Right. That setting that you didn't go back down to, that heel kick.
Yeah.
So that is like one of my absolute favorite machine.
Oh, we can talk
tasks.
about that. Yeah.
So it's funny.
So that only works
if you have a certain machine and a certain foot controller.
Mhm.
So there, and we have talked about how much we love this foot
that
controller.
foot control.
That's right. This like turns this machine into like a
The
top
bomb.
and the bottom machine.
It
It really
makes it
does.
the bomb. Yes.
So if I were ever gonna want to have a tiny sewing machine that I ported around that I could actually carry, it would have to be this one because of that feature. And then of course I like the pivot feature.
Right.
But yeah, that is just great. But you, a lot of you don't realize that you have that option.
Have the option.
And
So-
$9.50 and
Yes.
$13.50.
So the lyric
yes,
or the soprano, if you're in the Babylock line,
yes,
both would have that. And what that does is we have what's called a dual function. So we've talked about the multi-function foot controller, but there's also a dual function foot controller, which just doesn't have the third, making it a dual instead of a multi-function controller. And basically your heel, instead of the top part of the foot pedal, when you hit the gas, that's your toe.
Yep.
The heel kick is a secondary or a dual function, and you get to program what you want that heel kick to be. So here we can scroll through what we want that to be. So do we want it to cut our threads when we
Finish.
stomp our foot?
Yes.
We kick our heel, it'll cut the thread, or we can
Needle up, needle
needle
down.
up, needle down. We can, I believe that's one stitch.
Yep. One full stitch.
One full stitch, or tie in, right?
Reverse.
Yep.
Well, and that will do a full reverse.
Yep.
So, like the thing that I didn't realize when I came over to this brand was that not all sewing machines would sew permanently in reverse. And I was like, what do you? I have to hold the button in? I don't.
You don't, but you have to know how to make it not don't.
That's right.
Not
don't. Yeah.
Not don't.
I mean, not that I sew.
That
I
makes
don't.
so much sense.
I don't sew with I don't sew backwards, so I really don't know why that was a thing in my brain. But I on my old sewing machine, I used to turn it on accidentally, which would make me crazy. So
now it's a good thing that it doesn't do that,
right? Because if you hit the button like 2 times too quick, it would. Just
I always feel
sew
bad
backwards.
for the poor people that come in and say, "My machine won't work; it will only sew in reverse." I always my heart breaks for them.
I know, because there's no easy way for
turn
us.
your machine around and
Yeah, your button isn't stuck, honey.
just flip it around. It's all good.
Yeah, it's one of those things that has to be serviced. Yeah, that's
Yes.
not.
Unfortunately, that
thing.
one's not an easy fix. But
Mm-mm.
but anyway, sorry, off track there. But
Yeah.
yes, so that heel kick is a programmable piece, but it will only work if you upgrade your foot pedal from the standard Model T that came with your machine to the dual function foot pedal, or multifunction if you have one of the upper level machines.
Yes.
But again, this one would need a dual function. And we have those here. I'm
Mhm.
sure you're all shocked to hear that.
Yeah.
But because Sarah and I really like those, I used to not use my foot pedal because it didn't do what I wanted it to do.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I thought it was me.
Yeah.
I blamed me. I thought I was a terrible sewer because
Why doesn't this foot pedal work?
I would hit it and I'd get 5 stitches instead of the one
Yeah.
that I wanted. And I'm like, it never does what I want it to do. I'm not using it. So I used my start stop button because I could push it and I'd get my one stitch.
Yes.
So that's what I did.
Yeah.
And then I met her and she was like, well, have you tried this? And I'm like, I don't use foot pedals because they suck.
But wait, I was here for an entire year.
And she didn't know there was a good foot pedal.
Before someone, because
we didn't have them out.
Right. There were no foot controllers out in this place whatsoever.
No.
And I was like, I finally, I don't remember if it was Tony or Jean, but I was complaining about why is this not, I was trying to do my applique.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it will not stop where I want it to be. And they're like, well, why don't you try the other foot pedal? And I'm like, wait, what? And so she tried it. And then she was like, oh. I'm like, you need this in your life.
And I'm like, no, I don't like them. And she's like, try it. I'm like, but I hate foot pedals.
Yes.
They don't do what I want them to do. And I thought it was all me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not you guys. It's really not you.
There's a better
Unfortunately, it's the foot pedal.
Yes.
It really is the controller. So there is a better thing out there.
There is.
Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. That was totally sidebar.
Yes.
But anyway, that's how you would use that thing there. So
that's why you need that in your life.
That's why you need that in your life. So you can be cool like us. Somebody was in and they said that they have like a really big TV and they watch us and I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, oh God, I'm so sorry. Us on a large screen is really scary. Okay, so yes, the heel kick. I didn't mean to skip over it. I just was kind of comparing.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's not on this one. That's why you need that one.
That's why right.
Oh,
there's multiple.
Leabu Sewing Center just said we're live.
Settings menu. Why don't we talk about that?
We should.
We should totally do
that.
Back
on track.
Okay. So there are lots more settings, as you can see. Stitch adjustments, thread densities, character spacings. So I get asked this a lot. Well, can I change the characters? Not a whole lot, but you do have the ability to adjust. And I apologize, my hand's flashing over there every now and then. So sorry, I'll move them over here. Sorry, but you can adjust the
length. I'm trying to help.
The space.
Patty cake. We're never gonna get through settings. I'm
okay.
sorry.
But the spacing in between the letters you can actually adjust. So there is also some small, large adjustment that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
But there is not a lot is the bottom line when it comes to lettering. But you can adjust the space so you can squish or spread out and that kind of thing on there. Size selection. So there are some of those decorative stitches that you have a large, small selection option. They're not all there, but you do have some there. Mm-hmm. And that's what this guy is right there. So again, to get
that
there,
one is really complicated. If it's a big box, you're on the
big
letter.
And look, see, I can change it just like that. Oh, I don't have a stitch selection.
I was gonna say
I'm not on a stitch that it will let me selection. But if you are on one that it lets you change, then it would let me change that.
It's smart.
But it would, yes, unfortunately, sometimes it's smarter than we are.
Why won't this work?
So if you lift your lid and you were on a decorative stitch that had that, like I said, not all stitches have a size selection. I'm just on a straight stitch, which there is no size selection. So, but that's where that would be at there. So this is actually adjusting your feed dog system. I've never needed to do that. Have you needed to do that?
So I have done it before. I used to do it just to explain how it worked, which is why I've done it. So if you're trying to sew letters on, I'm going to use like Minky as an example. So because the top part of the Minky is so squishy, when you're trying to if you were trying to make the letter O or a P, what happens because there's so much squish in there is that the feed dogs don't, the bar with the O for the P, they don't connect. And so you can use the fine adjustment to overcompensate for the weird squish shift of the fabric.
That's super high tech wording
you've
got going on
I
there.
know, but
that's why I'm over here smirking in case anybody's.
Basically what that does is if you have letters or a design and the design is not completing the way that it's supposed to, you can use that to basically overcompensate for
Sure, yeah.
the feed dog system to connect the piece that you want.
So when your decorative stitch is not finishing appropriately based on the fabrics that you have chosen to stitch them on.
Yes, and it's typically on something that is
Squishy.
Squishy, yes.
That high tech.
Squishy, fluffy, sticky, tacky.
It's not your traditional
right, where it's not feeding through
standard feed.
Yes, because the feed dogs are working in different conjunction with like how much pressure is being applied down. So yeah, that's the technical term for that. But that's basically what that is.
Yep. And so you're not going to need to do that all the time.
No.
By any stretch.
It's typically going to be some sort of weird specialty thing.
Yep.
And you're probably going to call us and ask us how to do it, and we'll walk you through it.
Yup again. All right, next page. This guy here. So you'll notice that we have a box there and a box there. So those numbers that have the black or reverse black. So if I go down a page, you'll see that it is actually black. It was just highlighted. That black box around the number is giving you the default number. So when I come off, you'll see that it no longer is there. And that means that we are changing it. So it's no longer what is the quote unquote recommended. So the default number for that particular setting.
But if you do change these, just as you should know that it's permanent until you go back to change.
Right.
So
turning your machine off and back on will not reset anything in this settings menu.
No.
It will only change if you go back to page 5 and line 2 and change it back to.
Yeah.
You don't have to remember what to change it back to because there's going to be a little black box there that will tell you, oh yeah, that's the default number.
Yeah.
So you don't have to write it down or anything like that, but you do have to remember to go back and physically change that. I'm really bad at remembering when I do something like that. So I've gotten in the habit of, I take just a sticky note and I stick it on the corner of my machine. So I'll just literally put a sticky note and have it hanging on my machine. And that is code for me to, hey, you changed something. You need to go back in there and change it. I don't need to write on there what it is. I just need to know that I need to go back in there and fix it. Because that's enough to tell me. Then I'll remember, oh yeah, I changed my presser foot height because I was sewing on something that was really tall and I needed the extra room. Duh, it was this. I need to go back there and do it. But it reminds me to go back and do it. Otherwise, my next project might not come out quite like I'm expecting it to.
Right.
So just do something to remind you, unless you have I'm not an elephant by any stretch of the imagination. I forget.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Where we have 1,000 things going on at the same time.
Me?
Right?
You?
Imagine that.
Nah, imagine that. So
I'm trying to remember everybody's sewing machines for them.
Yeah, you guys go, I don't know my machine. Don't you remember what you bought? You sold it to me, don't you? No, sorry. So pressure and height. So I think those are probably fairly self-explanatory, how much pressure is going down on the foot when we lower it and what the actual level that the foot is at.
Yes.
And we can change that. So
and I would just like to point out that they gave you the option to adjust your presser foot pressure. Use it. So it really, it doesn't matter what the number is, as long as you're happy with the outcome.
Right.
And if you are unhappy with the outcome, some of the things that make people unhappy with the outcome are if your fabric is shifting. So you've got 2 pieces of fabric, you cut them at the same time. They should both be the same size. And you go to sew it together and your top fabric is now, 1/8 of an inch larger than your bottom fabric. Your presser foot pressure is too high. So if you lessen that presser foot pressure, you can alleviate that push that happens because it's applying pressure downward and your feed dog is basically easing the fabric in, and that's what happens. And then if the reverse happens, you can apply more pressure. So don't be afraid to change those.
Play with that. If you see that didn't look right, then that's why you have that there, is to be able to make that adjustment.
Exactly. So
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to play with that one.
Not at all.
I highly encourage it.
Nope. Do you use this?
I do not.
I don't either. I don't know why I don't use that. What that is it's supposed to make those adjustments for you automatically. I don't know. I just have this.
So
Hey, you want to explain that?
you have a good explanation for the auto
Fabric sensor system.
You don't have to be on camera.
I don't understand the question. What are you trying
The
to say?
automatic fabric sensor system.
We
So you're
usually
on the auto tension machine.
Auto tension machine,
Yeah.
auto
So it
fabric
determines
sensor.
The thickness of the material you're working on.
Determines the thickness of the material that we're working on and adjusts the pressure and the foot height.
Correct.
there you go.
Like I said, it does those two things for you automatically. Supposedly.
Supposedly, yes.
Does it work really well?
Mm-hmm.
Tony says you should totally use that feature. Maybe we should try it.
So the only time I ever turned it on was when I was doing binding, and I was like, "This is a nightmare," because like it couldn't.
It was
all over, the place. Yeah, right. It couldn't really determine what part of the binding I was on, and so yeah, we don't typically. You and I don't use that. Maybe we should play around with it a
I
little
should
bit.
play with that. We'll play with it. We'll let you know how it goes. But that's what it does. I knew what it was supposed to do. I've just
We just
never
don't use it.
No, unfortunately, I don't really use it.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of off the wall. I don't do a lot of sewing.
Right.
In all fairness,
Yeah.
I embroider and then I occasionally sew pieces of my embroidery together. But that's for the most part what I do. But I am getting more. I'm
Mhm.
doing more. But yeah, so this is basically going to take these two things and auto adjust that for you. Is
Mhm.
what the smart man says.
Mhm.
We'll say he's smart for the moment.
Yes. What our technician.
Our technician
Has
is
said.
telling us.
Yes.
So that is page 5.
Right. But if you
so-
know either of us, you know that we're probably not going to give that, we're not going to give the machine the opportunity to make those choices for us.
We might be what one might call a bit of a control freaks.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. We must control what's happening in
Yes.
front of us. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Probably.
So
why
that
we're
auto
both like,
stuff
"That has
is
to
like,
stay off."
yeah,
Yeah, no,
I'll take care of it. I'm good.
I
Thanks.
got it. Yeah.
But
It's there.
but it is there. But yeah, that automatic height adjustment and that
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called over there, but it's not on that one.
Yeah, I was going to say it's.
But that's what, if you read the brother paperwork, it's the aha feature.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was the Babylock version. Is it brother?
Pretty sure that's brother.
I don't know.
They blend.
Yeah,
It's
all the
so
same
hard to
us.
tell what one thing is versus the other thing and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
All right. So as you can see, there's lots and lots of settings that you can manipulate and tell the machine what. So this is not touchscreen, which confuses some people. They want to do this, right? So that's what we have these arrows
Mhm.
down here for. So
I know when I'm talking to some people, I'm like, it's like those old cell phones where we had to
you
use
have
the
the little
buttons.
arrows
and
that
it-
were,
yeah.
you know,
So if you had an old cell phone that was like a
a
flip
little
phone,
bit
yeah, it's kind of like
more
that.
like that. So we'll talk a little bit more about the buttons down here once we get through these pages up here, but there's more.
There's more.
There's always more. So this again is number 4. So this is the top notch of the 4. We showed you the entry, which everything is right on screen.
Mhm.
The 2 in the middle, the 700s and the 900s, depending upon when you got them, or the Brilliant, or the Katherine, or the Lyric.
Mhm.
Those in the Babylock line, those would have more than the 5, but less than these.
Yeah, they definitely won't have these.
It's not going to have all of this stuff.
3.
So these 3 are definitely not going to be in there. So this one here is free motion. Everybody always, if you're a quilter, which 8.3 inch throat, these are fantastic for getting into your quilting. This is going to be, hey, if I'm going to free motion something, I need to know how to do that. How do I get my machine set up to do free motion? And,
It's a 2-step. Yeah.
So this guy here, we go up right there. Now we're on free motion and we go, and look at that. Did you hear that?
I did.
Could they hear that, you think?
I don't know.
I don't know either. So what that does is it sets you up and it tells the machine that you want to do free motion. You are obviously still going to need to change your foot,
Yes.
but that tells the machine that you're ready to go on there, which is awesome. You do have the ability to adjust your free motion height. So depending upon how much batting, what kind of batting that you're using, you still want to have that hover thing going on. You don't want huge gaps between your foot and your project. So that is the free motion foot height. Pivot height, we didn't talk about pivot a whole lot yet, but pivot is something that is only on the number 4 machine, whether it be the 1300s or the Soprano. And the pivot height, basically, as you're sewing, you can turn on the auto pivot feature, and it will leave the needle in the fabric, but raise the presser foot just a little bit so that you can pivot your fabric underneath. And then when you turn the corner or whatever it is that you're doing, when you hit the foot pedal or your start stop button, if that's what you're doing, it will lower the foot automatically and start sewing again. So you can turn those corners. This is huge if you're doing like arm seams or something like that, where you've got all of that fabric that you're trying to manipulate and you're turning little bits. I can remember doing seams like that as a kid and just being like, oh,
yeah,
because there's so much going on. If that foot would have raised out of my way so I could manipulate, that would have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it's great as a quilter too. I don't mean to shuffle it as it's only good for making clothes.
Yeah, but it's not great when you're putting on your border because your whole fabric slips over. So I remember like I got a sewing machine that I couldn't turn that feature on and off.
Yeah.
And every time I would sew a border on, like the weight of the border would just pull it over there. So like I would be like, there was all these little kicks.
Yeah.
And because you have to, at some point you have to pause either to grab your fabric again or do something else. So in this machine, it's really fantastic on all of our
beautiful
machines if it has this feature.
So this is the auto pivot button, and literally you turn it on and let there be light is absolutely right. When the light is on, the feature is on. When the light is off, the feature is off. It's that simple. I can remember I was working here for approximately, it was less than 2 weeks. And Laura decided I should teach sewing club. Maybe it wasn't. It was around 2 weeks, but it was not very long. And I definitely wasn't adept on like all of the machines.
Right.
And she was like, she had it all set up for me. I'd read the instructions. She gave me the instructions like 10 minutes before class, said, here, read this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I sat down in front of this machine, and that feature was on. And my sewing machine, it had it, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
So I never turned it on. And I'm sewing along, doing the best I could, sewing in front of this classroom of people, freaking out, right? And I stopped sewing, and the foot went up, and I was like, "What's just happened?" Because I was like, "Somebody turn this off," because I was like, "I don't want that," because I wasn't comfortable because I wasn't used to it, right? Once you get used to it, it's phenomenal. It's so great. Yeah. But when it happens when you're not ready for it, it's a little like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah.
But it is so great. And since learning that crash course, I can literally remember thinking, this would have been so awesome making, and I could even picture the outfit that I was making in high school. You know, like, oh my gosh, I remember making this and how awful that sleeve. You know, this would have been so great when I was doing this. I can remember it very clearly.
Isn't that funny? I mean, not that you got thrown to the wolves.
I mean, it is what it is. And it worked. I was fine. And then I repeated it 3 more times for the rest of the week. It was all good with the feature turned off.
That's like, yeah, it's just crazy.
It is, but it's one of those things that until you see it, you go, oh, and then your mind starts going of how you can use it.
Yes.
So it is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So once again, just like that picture is showing, your needle is going to stay down as your foot rises. So you can pivot the fabric underneath whatever your project is, whether it is piecing,
Yep.
whether it is making clothes and you're constructing something, it doesn't matter what it is. The needle keeps everything in place while you are able to shift whatever else is going on.
Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful thing. Hi, Dad. Okay, so what?
Oh, nothing. Hi, Dad. She got it covered for me.
All right, so
So
that's
that's why people think we're sisters. Are you two related?
nope. We just share. All right, so that's page 6. These are pretty darn obvious. The beeps that you hear when you push a button, you can turn off. The lights that you see underneath here, guess what? You can turn those off too.
Mm-hmm.
But why? No, I'm just kidding. You can change the brightness of the things that you see as well. It's pretty obvious there, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
Reinforcement, that is the drill. That is what that guy is. And then how hard do I have to push for it to read? That is your input sensitivity. I joke about this guy right here, but it's really not a joke. If you turn this to another language, I can't help you because you have to know the other language that you've changed it to be able to find where to change it back. So
Mhm.
that's not funny.
No.
Don't do that
Mm-mm.
unless you speak whatever you change it to,
Mhm.
because it really does. It changes everything on that screen.
Mm-hmm. I my software did an update one time, and
Mhm.
the thing that it updated was like French or something, and so instead of just updating to include it, it updated and changed it,
Oh,
and I was like,
I took
I couldn't-
years of French in high school and I don't remember any of it. I can count and that's about it.
Right. I remember calling and saying that, I don't know. We had to go back to a previous update on a Windows update. Thankfully it had it back then, but they were like, well, we're going to stop rolling out that software update. I'm like, I think that's a fantastic
That's
idea.
probably a really good idea.
It wasn't one of those you got to pick. It just
did it.
It just did it. And I was like, oh,
That's not good.
no.
And then all electronic machines do have a version of software that's in there. This is just telling your machine what it is. This is not upgradable, updatable, whatever word you want to use.
Right.
There's no USB port in this machine. So what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
There is no changing that. So it's really nice that they tell you, but there's not a whole lot that you can do with that information.
Mhm.
But that is all of the pages. And when we go one more, we're right back to where we started. If you had typed in alphabet, this would be, so if I typed in Lisa, it would show me Lisa right there. And it would show me what I could do with those letters. That's what that ABC means. We kind of skipped over that. So that is the settings. To get out of there, I can hit OK or I can hit clear. There's multiple ways to get off that screen. And then this is our regular screen. So here is that same needle that we talked about, the setting that I chose.
I just want to, so clear on this machine is the
back arrow.
button. Yeah. It doesn't really go back. It really is more like a clear.
It's a clear. Yeah. It looks like a return.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear.
Yeah.
So that is all the way at the bottom. You can't quite see my finger right there, all the way down here. And then we also have OK. So we talked about that's everything that was in that button. That's a whole lot under one button. And then we talked about this guy all the way up here. That is your auto pivot. We've got your auto reverse and your auto trim. Those same arrows that we have here that we used in the settings are also used to adjust your width, your length. And then you do have some, even though this is an auto tension machine, you do have some little bits of adjustment that you can do for your tension. The only time I have ever changed that is if I'm doing free motion to get that pull just with the thread and that's the only time I've ever needed to play with that.
Yeah.
Have you ever played with that?
Top stitching or using free motion quilting. That's typically the
that pull of the thread that you need it balanced more specifically, because other times everything's matching and it's not as important.
Yeah, most of the time you're not going to see the bottom,
Nope.
so it's not that important. But occasionally,
So you can tweak a little bit to get that balance perfected right there, and that's with these arrows there. So like I was saying, this one here shows we're going to stop with our needle down. And then this is the seam of stitches instead of a single. We can change that. That is this guy down here. That is on all of our machines. We also have a mirror image. Not that you can tell that from a straight stitch too much, but it would flip. Mirror image shows up on screen so you can see that. And this one here does confuse some people. It's to go back all the way at the bottom here. It looks like a needle with a star and a heart. That will take you to the beginning of your pattern. So it's very easy to explain it from a font. So let's say I typed in LISA and I was typing an entire I typed in and now I'm sewing and I've done an entire seam. And at the end of the seam, I ended on the S. And I'm going to start again at the top.
you don't want to start on.
I don't want to start on A. I want to start on L. So I would hit that. It would go back to the beginning. So I would start at L instead of wherever I left off. And then I would start where I wanted to be instead of wherever I ended up.
Yep.
So that takes you to the beginning of whatever pattern it is you have on screen.
Yep.
So that is this little guy right there. Some other features that we do have are some ability to save, which you do have something on this machine. It's just push that.
This one and this one.
So when you save there, you only have one stitch save option. There's not a big pocket,
No.
if you will. So it's much more limited on the 500 than it is on the other machines. When we hit that same button down here, it does still go in the same spot, but we do have multiple spots. So when you save, you have different abilities to pull up multiple things. You only have one ability to pull something on the 500. So there's not a multi-position save pocket there. It's just one stitch.
Right. It shows you that we pulled up the pocket, but that's what it's showing us as the stitch.
And as long as we are showing that, you see that number 13, that's however many things that are in that stitch. It does not show you the physical stitch. That's one of the other things of that simplistic programming, is that shows you the number of the stitch, but not
the picture of the stitch.
Not the actual picture of whatever the stitch is, which is on all of the other machines in here. Not that that's a setting, but
right,
it is one of the differences there. So you can physically see what you're doing in here. So you do have 5 slots to save to here. We can lock our machine here for changing needles or safety of, I'm going to walk away and I don't want my nephew or somebody to hurt themselves while I'm not sitting in front of the machine and able to guard it with my life. And then we do have the ability to return to defaults. And we also have the ability to save settings. This is a phenomenal feature. What this means is if I go into my settings and I want the machine to be able to come on, but I want it to come on where I want to stitch my 1/4 inch. And I don't want to have to fart with the buttons every time I sit down because I forget. I want to just turn it on and then sew because I forget that I need to change a setting. And so the first seam I sew is always wrong.
Yep.
Because I sew and then I go, oh crap, I forgot.
Yep.
And I don't want to have to do that. I can actually change that to put my needle position where it needs to be. I can change my stitch length if I want to, and then I can save it to that particular stitch. So stitch number 2 in my numbers setting will always go to that 5.5 now. So if I turn the machine off and turn the machine on, when I turn on to number 2, it will always go to that. That saving of a specific setting in my stitches is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I believe that starts at the 7.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be into the at least 700s or the brilliant Katherines before you get the ability
You
to
have
do
to
that.
be able to see the picture of your
You
stitch.
have to be able to see the picture of your stitch.
Not
That is
just
correct.
a numerical value.
But that little guy right there is phenomenal. So it's like a baseball diamond with the arrow. That's that one right there. Love it. That is one of my favorite things to be able to do. It's just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a great choice.
So we have run over just a hair.
We did.
I like to talk and I apologize. So, but there's so many wonderful things in there. So that kind of covers all kinds of craziness. And that's just 4 of the many, many machines that we have, or 8, I guess.
Yeah.
But as we said, there's so many more. So hopefully that helps you. But everything that we talked about today will transfer in to
all the rest
of the machines too.
It's
Absolutely.
just a different way of getting to them.
You betcha. So hopefully that helps. If you got one of these, we certainly sold a whole bunch for Christmas and around that time, at Novi and different towards the end of the year. So I know a lot of you did, but maybe some of you that have had them for a while needed a little refresher on what some of those things were too.
Yeah, sometimes you
So-
don't use them because you don't know about them yet.
Absolutely. Or maybe you just made the choice like we do, but that's okay too. So hope that helped and hope you enjoyed it. We will see you next time and we will talk about those settings on a few other machines.
Yeah.
All right. See you then.
Bye.
Bye, guys.